Hello students of class 10. In this video I'm going to explain the work of the river. The river performs or do basically three types of work. One is erosion, two is transportation, and number three is deposition. So these are basically three works that the river do in its course. The course of the river can be divided into three groups. One is the upper course, then is the middle course, and lastly we have the lower course. Okay, so in the upper course the river performs only erosion. In the middle course the river do the work of both erosion plus deposition plus transportation, and in the lower course the river do only the work of deposition. Okay, now let us see the landform features formed by the river. We can categorize the landforms that are being formed by the rivers into two divisions. Okay, the landforms forms due to erosion and the landforms formed due to deposition. Okay, so I will start with the landforms that are formed with the erosion first. So the first feature that I am going to discuss now is a V-shaped valley. The V-shaped valley is formed due to the erosion of the river. Okay, so in the mountainous region the river flows very fast through the steep slopes and wears down the bed region of the river. Okay, if this is the river, the bed or through which the plain over which the river flows, actually we are calling the bed of the river. So this is actually the bed of the river on which the river water flows. Okay, and this is the while it flows through this steep slopes, it actually do an active down cutting. Down cutting means this vertical erosion or vertical corrosion, and produces a very deep narrow valley, and we are calling this as the V-shaped valley. When the river flows through the mountainous course, the river twists and turn like this way. Okay, and because of the obstacles present, so it it cannot erode the hard rocks that are present as the obstacle. As a result of that, it just twists and turns and forms the interlocking spars. Next is a gorge. What is a gorge? Gorge is that when the river flows over a very resistant rock, the valley over there becomes very deep. Why the valley becomes very deep? Because it is flowing over the resistant rock, which is for as a result of that it cannot erode the resistant rock, and as a result it do a lot of vertical cutting or down cutting. Okay, and as a result of that it produce a very deep narrow landform feature. We are calling it as the gorge. Next is canyon. Canyon is also very much similar to a gorge, but in the case of the canyon, the vertical cutting or the down cutting, it's very means more narrower than the gorge, and it's very steep, and it's very similar to an eye-shaped valley. And this canyon has also a dominant, means in the canyons the vertical cutting or the down cutting is also dominant like in the gorge. So in the mountainous region there is frequent changes of the slope occurs, and the rocks are made up of two types of rock. One is the hard rock and one is the soft rock. Okay, the softer rocks get eroded by the river water, but the hard rocks but the river cannot erode the hard rocks. Okay, and as a result of that, depressions are produced where the softer rocks got eroded, and so when the river flows over this region, it actually jumps down and rises up, and again jumps down and rises up, and forming a feature we are calling it as the rapids. Next is a waterfall. When a water falls from a sudden height along a vertical or very steep slope, we are calling this landform features as the waterfalls. Waterfalls forms in the mountainous region. Okay. Next feature is the potholes. What are potholes? When the river move very swiftly, round holes are created due to on the bed of the river. Bed of the river means the place over which the water flows. Okay, so on the bed of the river, and this it also the river carries large boulders within its water, and these boulders get has the when the boulders flows over the bed of the river, it have some corrosion effect, and as a result of that, the depressions are formed on the bed of the river. We are calling those depressions as the potholes. When the river descends from this mountains to enter the flat plain, its actually speed decreases, and the carrying capacity of the river also decreases, and it abruptly drops all the loads that is carrying, the loads of the sands, pebbles, gravel, stones at the foot of the mountain, and it form a landform feature. We are calling that feature as the alluvial fan. Next is meander. What are meanders? When the water carries a huge volume of the water is not being able to flow swiftly, and it flows slow in the plain region, and because it carries a lot of because its speed decreases, its energy decreases, and it is not being able to carry a lot of load, and as a result of that, what it's actually avoid the obstructions that are present in the path of the river, and it develops a winding channel, and we are calling this total winding channel as the meander. Okay. Next feature is the floodplain. Now I'm starting the depositional features of the river. Okay, so the next feature is the floodplain. How these floodplains are the forms? In the lower course of the river, the heavy deposition of the sand sills takes place. During the time of the flood, the water of the river increases, and as a result of that, it overflows its bank. Okay, when it overflows its banks, it also carries the sediments that is present in the within the river water, and it deposits those sediments on the bank of the river, and on the bank of this river. But after the flood gets over and the water recedes, the sediments were left on this bank of the river and forms a plain. We are calling it as the flood plain. Next is the natural levee. In the lower course of the river, when the because of the active deposition, sometimes the sides portions of the bank height raised, and it forms a feature we are calling the side portions of the river, like this is the bank of the river, the height of the this bank increases because of the active deposition, and it forms a features. We are calling that feature as the natural levee. The last feature that you have is a delta. What happens that in the lower course of the river, when the loads of the river becomes too heavy and the river is no more able to carry the load anymore, and the carrying capacity decreases, what happens? It abruptly deposit the materials just before entering the sea, and it forms a feature we are calling is as it forms a feature in a fan shaped manner, similarly like the alluvial coal, and we are calling it as the delta because it looks like the Greek alphabet delta on the river mouth, and it's called the delta. The deposition goes on its river mouth, and the river is forced to divide through many channels because of the presence of this delta, and these channels we generally call as the distributaries. Okay, so the Ganga Brahmaputra delta has the largest delta in the world which present all these different features. So this is all about the erosional and depositional features of the river. I'm going to carry on with the rest of the depositional and erosional features of the glaciers and wind in the next video. So thank you everyone.